Good afternoon, everyone. This is Rosalyn Kahn with Living Your Best Life with Chow Entertainment KXLA. Boy, do we have a special guest for you today. This is Mr. Bert Botta, who's an aviation expert, witness, writer, and consultant, and has a long career in the world of aviation. So say hello to us, Bert.
Hello, audience, and great to be here, Rosalyn.
Fantastic. What inspired you so many years to get involved in wanting to become an airline pilot? How did that all begin?
Well, I went up with my father in old DC-3 one time, and I wanted to go out on the wing. I was 5 years old. I wanted to go out in the wing and see how things work. And he wouldn't let me do that, so I figured the next best thing was to learn how to fly and do it myself. So it's kind of kidding, but at the same time, that experience stuck with me. And then I went into the Navy, and I was flying in a squadron. And then I came out of the Navy and then went to apply to TWA and got hired. And that began that career. And I retired. I took early retirement from TWA and then spent 7 years traveling around the world and writing a book, and then came back to work for NetJets, which is the world's largest and best known what they call fractional jet ownership company. It's basically where high-end clients pay a lot of money for the privilege of flying around to places in the world. So that's kind of sums up my aviation career, but I still write, I do consulting, and it morphed now into doing aviation expert witness work since I love, how should I say it? I love demonstrating and experiencing aviation in all its forms. And this is a way to put my counseling skills as well as my aviation background to work for aviation legal clients.
Wow, God, you said it all. I don't have anything else to say. You've covered all the bases, but let me take you back a few seconds, all right?
Sure.
So you spent 7 years traveling. What was one of your favorite destinations that you traveled to?
I would like to say India, although it definitely was interesting. You don't go to India to take a leisurely vacation. India is very intense, but the people are wonderful, and that was one of my favorite places. Pretty much, and then I was flying for TWA on loan to Saudi Arabian Airlines, and we were training pilots in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, and I got to fly throughout the entire Middle East. And during those days, Pakistan, Karachi, Pakistan was a really beautiful city, and so I really enjoyed the Middle East as well.
How was that flying in the Middle East? I've actually traveled to there. I did some traveling in Dubai, Israel, and United Arab Emirates.
Challenging to say the least. It's we would fly into places in the middle of the desert, and that ordinarily I had never had any experience flying into, and it was you had to really pay attention to what you were doing because there was no FAA traffic control, no air traffic control. And you were pretty much on your own in many of the areas over there. So that was interesting. I love going to the different countries over there and experiencing the food and the different cultures in Jordan and Tel Aviv and all throughout the Middle East and up into Europe and Morocco, those areas. So I really, really enjoyed it.
That's fantastic. Now, when your well-to-do clients pay you to take them to different destinations, is there a favorite destination that they like to go to?
Aspen.
Aspen.
They love to go to Aspen in the wintertime. And I say that kind of facetiously, but they really do. They love going to Aspen. And it's very interesting because everybody goes to Aspen at the same time. So it makes it difficult to get landing permits and sometimes landing clearances. But that was during the time I flew for NetJets. That was one of their favorite destinations. And Sun Valley, Idaho was one of their favorites. All the famous, how should I say it, high-end locations are where most of the clients used to fly to.
Wow. Was it difficult dealing with these people?
No, I loved it. These people, they have made it. They made their money. And for the most part, they were very comfortable when they're in their own skin and enjoyed life. There was always a few exceptions, but we dealt with them, fairly easily. It was it was a delightful career. And we flew them and their dogs and cats, and it was very enjoyable.
Exactly. Now, you also mentioned that you had done some work with in the world of counseling. And that seems to me be a little different career path that most people who are pilots come into.
It definitely was different. I went through kind of a midlife crisis when I was flying for the airline. And so I took some time off and did some traveling around the world. And then I came back and I realized that I was pretty much a taker and I wanted to change my life. And so I went back to school and got a master's degree in counseling psychology. And that I figured was a way I could give back and help others. And then I came back to fly for the airline. And as it turned out, I was able to pretty much counsel, if you will, pilots and help them through some rather serious training issues. I was given, my chief pilot found out I was a counselor, and so he'd give me some of the tough cases. Some of the pilots were having trouble upgrading to captain from first officer, or in the cases of the old airplanes, from flight engineer to first officer. So I take these guys out and fly with them and just teach, relax, get them relaxed and help them to realize that in many cases they've been flying for 10 or 15 years. They knew what they were doing, but when they come up against a training situation, a lot of them would just freeze up and forget they knew what they knew. And so it's just a matter of getting them to relax and be able to access their skills that they had kind of tightened up and forgotten.
Wow. Did you use any meditation training or anything like that, or?
Medication or meditation?
Meditation.
Meditation, yes, I did. In my own life, I did, but not with the pilots. There they were, and still are. Many pilots are pretty straight arrow guys, and they don't take well to, how should I say it, alternative modalities. So meditation was not one of the ones I would use.
Wow, wow. Now, tell me a little bit about your writing.
I've written a book. It's called Fast Lane to Faith. I became a Christian back in 2004, and it's pretty much the life story of me and about my growing up in San Francisco. I was one of the early hot rodders in the late 50s and early 60s in San Francisco, and that morphed into my need for speed to flying jets. And then I wrote about my spiritual journey around the world, and then finally meeting the woman of my dreams. And so it's kind of more of an autobiography than anything else. And now I also write for aviation companies. I do social media for large aviation companies. I rewrote a website for a local charter and management company here in Nevada, south of me. And I do a lot of different kinds of writing for different companies. Solaris Aero hired me to interview and profile their captains, because it's a very high-end, very well-recognized, and probably one of the world's biggest high-end corporate jet charter and management companies. And I know the owner, the CEO, and they hired me to profile their pilots so that they could distribute these profiles to their customers, to their clients, so that they would know a little bit more about who had their life in their hands.
Wow, that sounds fascinating. I mean, you've got such an amazing life. I mean, you've told us about how you got involved in the field of aviation, how you've got in the field of writing, your different places that you've worked, some of the traveling things that you've done. And my last and final question is, I understand that you also do some work as an aviation expert in accidents and so forth. Is that what you do?
Yes, I've decided to use some of my background as a pilot, not just for commercial air carriers, in my case, the older airline, TWA, but also for NetJets, which is a corporate company. I decided to use that background in combination with my professional counseling skills, because as an aviation expert witness, it helps to know, how should I say it? It helps to be emotionally intelligent, which means to know what you're feeling, what your emotions are, so that you can have control over those feelings and emotions and use them in a constructive manner rather than be at the cause and effect of those. So I see that as kind of a unique combination of my experience and background that I'm taking into the aviation expert witness world.
It's almost like applying emotional intelligence to what you're doing. Would you say? Would you agree?
Perfect. Exactly.
Wow.
That's exactly what it is. And, a lot of people, their emotional IQ is not not as high as it could be, because especially when they're under stress, they react instead of respond appropriately. So that's kind of one of my specialties, is being able to read into people's psychological and emotional makeup, especially aviation professionals, and use that in my aviation expert witness work.
Oh, that's fantastic. I had done some training in the past where I was working with pilots who were small planes and helping them to reduce their stress and anxiety. But that's the excitement of life here. Well, it's really been a pleasure and honor. Now, if someone wanted to go ahead and follow you and get in touch with you for one of your various crafts, where would be the best place that they could reach out to you at?
It's Botajet, BOTAJET @gmail.com. That's my last name with one T, BOTAJET @gmail.com.
And they can also find you on LinkedIn, correct?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm also if you go to www.seek, SEAK, experts.com, that is where my aviation expert witness profile is located.
It's truly been a pleasure and an honor to have you. This is Rosalyn Kahn. I want to thank you so much. If you're interested in following me, this is Rosalyn Kahn at Living Your Best Life. Gratitude beyond words. You can follow me on all social media with just the name Rosalyn Kahn. Thank you so much, and tune in for our next show. And Bert, I want to say gratitude beyond words. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Rosalyn. It's a pleasure.